Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming to another video. All right, so latest rumor is Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, and the Lakers would be sending in the 17th overall pick, Mo Bamba, and of course Malik Beasley. Now, I laugh at that because it is a running joke around here that the Lakers have been trying to get Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and every casual Laker fan is always asking, when are we going to do this deal? Well, it looks like the Lakers have an opportunity to do this deal. The problem is I do not want to give up the 17th overall pick for anything involving Buddy Hield unless I'm getting back draft equity. As I've already said earlier in a video that I did uh, where I discussed the possibility of such. Buddy Hield to me is a player where if he's not hitting threes, he's getting a little better at other combo things. Maybe it's a good time to pick him up, but it's just he's more of a name than he is production on the floor, and so that's my concern about Buddy. Yeah, he can shoot the three very well, but so can a couple of these guys in the draft. You know what I mean? So I'm better off just keeping my 17th pick. But then you look at Miles Turner and say, okay, can we pry Miles Turner away from the Pacers in any other way? And pocket a pick instead of Buddy Hield. But see, I don't think the Lakers want that. I think the Lakers genuinely want Buddy Hield, and that's the problem. I want Miles Turner. I don't really love the extension signed on his contract based on what his availability may be when his injuries start hitting, which are common for him. And that's the problem with putting him on this team at an absorbent amount. I could also do better and just take Lively at 17 if he's available. You know what I mean? So it's like certain things I'm like, okay, you want these established players because you want them to be able to help you win now, and in theory they should be able to do that. And when you look at Buddy Hield and Miles Turner on the roster with what we have right now, you bring back Rui, bring back Austin, move up Max into a real position. It's a good team. It looks really good on paper if you add those two to the roster. So I'm not mad at just in general what that looks like. I'm just not a big believer in Buddy Hield, and I got a feeling we're going to want to trade him instead of him. I can see that being a situation where it ends in us wanting to trade Buddy rather than it ending in some triumphant moment. That's just not what I believe he's going to provide. He's a big player. He's a big shot maker, but what the Lakers want him to be, I don't know that he's actually that. I don't know. I think you're more than likely going to find that in the draft, honestly. You're going to find that in the draft. What you think Buddy's going to do for you, probably finding Jett Howard, Keontae George, all them players I don't really like that much in regards to shot makers, but don't really do anything else. I think they're pretty much better. They're going to be better than Buddy Hield. All of those guys I mentioned have a chance to be better than Buddy Hield. So that's my concern is, do I believe that? Do I honestly believe that? I think so. I think I do. After studying Jett Howard, the more I study him, the more I realize, yeah, his skill set is something that I can totally see the Lakers picking up. Even though his weaknesses glare, his offensive package and what he brings to the table is probably something the Lakers should be trying to draft. And then I look at players like Jordan Hawkins. Of course, we want Jordan Hawkins. Dereck Lively makes a lot of sense. And there's some other players up there that I really like as well who may be available. So are we sure we want to trade out of this draft? I don't think so. Least of all to a team like the Pacers, who are going to have picks on top of picks. All they're doing is taking everybody's picks. I don't really want any of their players. I want the picks. That's what I want. Unless they're giving me Nembhard. And we've discussed this about the Pacers in the past. If they want to part ways with the stuff that I really like, I'll be happy with that. Miles Turner is at a price that I don't like, but I like the player. And so that's really what it is for me. We've discussed this maybe about a year ago. If the Pacers really want to come up off of some of that real talent that they got, then we can do business because they do have some guys. But it ain't the ones we're targeting. I'm just being honest with you. It ain't the ones we're targeting. We're taking the stuff off of them that they would much rather get off of them. So they should pay for that. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily want Miles Turner at that price. They really don't. They're hoping to trade it. They didn't want Buddy Hield at that price. They probably gave him that because they knew we'd probably want him. So it's like, are we going to pay for the Laker price? Because that's what they gave him. Or we can act like we know what time it is and make them pony up what they should in regards to that. So that's how I look at it. I'm just not fooled by what the Pacers been doing for a while now. I don't know what that was with the Aiden contract, but that's just, that contract right there is just kind of funny. I think they should probably take that back. Because that's initially who signed it, and now the Suns are trying to move it, and we're gonna see how that works out. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I like Miles Turner, and I can argue that if I expect Miles Turner to be healthy, the level he can go to is high. But see, the problem is I've seen too many seasons where he's not healthy and he's not getting any younger. So, am I picking up Miles Turner that can only give me a little bit more of what he always was? Does that mean I'm happy with that because that's all I'm getting from Bron anyway? I don't know. I don't know if this isn't just a different version of, and I'm not going to say this in the same context, but the Rudy Gobert situation where they ended up trading Rudy Gobert to the Jazz, from the Jazz, and ended up giving Kessler to the Jazz. You know what I mean? And Kessler ends up having a better year. This could be that kind of situation where you pick up Miles Turner and leave Lively up there to be taken, and Lively has a better year. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at all. I wouldn't be surprised, man. So I don't know. I tell the Lakers to just study, do your homework, study, and trust your scouts. Trust your scouts, because that's one of the best things we got for ourselves. Trying to get win now talent for LeBron James is very important, but you do not want to find yourself in a situation where you brought assets to you for this LeBron James era. He goes down, and those assets don't make as much sense for the franchise. If you go with the semi-young route and take rookies, you lessen your chances of that being even a possibility, because whatever you bring to you, even if he's not a part of it, you still are developing for what it is you are afterward. And if for some reason you don't like those pieces when he does retire, you can trade those guys for what it is that you want them to be. But if you bring in these players that are only meant for his timeline, and then he ain't there, which is more than likely going to be the case, then you're just kind of sitting there with guys running around on a timeline that doesn't make any sense for you. You're hoping you can trade those guys, as to which you're not going to be able to get nothing for them. I just know how that tumbles forward. You got to ask yourself, do you really expect your core to stay healthy, man? You can do what you want for them, but will they be there? And from what I've seen, no. 39 years of age? No. If I'm going to be honest, I expect LeBron James to play about 50 games this year. About 50 games. And Anthony Davis probably about the same. This is who they are, man. And so it's like, am I really bringing them timeline, sensitive players that are only supposed to be here for these 2 years? That seems a little misguided to me, only because of how I look at player development, for which I have confidence in with our team. Now, I'm not saying y'all should do what I said I would do in my mock draft, because I don't even think I feel that way anymore. Taking G.G. Jackson at 17, that's just not what I feel today. But I'm still going to be willing to take a player that maybe isn't going to help me as much this year as maybe they will 3 years from now, without any hesitation, so long as they can fit on this team. So long as they can fit. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Because if they fit, then I can slot them in, and they'll give me whatever they have at the requisite price that I can deal with. If they don't play well, there are other ways to get players on this team at the trade deadline, slip in front of them. None of these things really concern me, because I have a core of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. If they are healthy, so long as people are hitting shots around them, for which I'm drafting these guys to be able to do, it shouldn't be a problem. Because Anthony Davis is going to make up for a lot of people's mistakes defensively if he's healthy. And if he's not healthy, we ain't doing nothing. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, and LeBron James is going to put a lot of pressure on the rim and get guys involved. And if he's not there, probably not doing nothing. So it's like, as a responsible Laker fan, I want to give LeBron James a comfortable team to play with that can win a championship with him on it. And if he gives us 82 games, that team has to be at a certain level with enough win now talent to get him over the hump. I understand that. But I also understand that there's a team over there in Denver that's probably gotten everybody's number. And then there's a guy named Wembanyama that's coming in at 7'5" who plays like a guard. Some stuff is just outside of our control at this point. When you have the type of core at the age that we're building with, so at some point you just got to say, we're capped off, ladies and gentlemen. We are capped off. Like we may be able to get back to the Western Conference Finals, but the likelihood that we win a championship with this core, I don't think that's the case anymore. Now, will I root for my team and can we put something together that I believe can be really, really competitive? Heck yeah. And if we get ourselves the right pieces, maybe we can raise our ceiling some. But it's just a new day, man, and you got to be realistic about what you have. And right now, I don't like where it's headed if we're trying to bring in D'Angelo Russell with the intention of keeping him for the duration of those contracts, because that's an injury kind of prone guy. You're bringing in Chris Paul and asking him to play an actual role when you know he hasn't played more than 35 games in the last several seasons. I mean, that's misguided as hell. And then you're going to bring in somebody else, maybe Dennis Schroeder, and you're asking him to be able to make up for that, for which those two guys are expected to be absent. So you're going to have Dennis Schroeder play most of the minutes. It's like, this is the way I have to think. And maybe we keep the pick and then we draft a Jalen Hood-Schifino, or we draft a Kobe Buffkin, or somebody who can play the point guard, Nick Smith. I'm fine with that if that's what we're going to do. That'll hedge our bets against any of that stuff going wrong. Maybe we can allow for Dennis Schroeder if we don't want to resign him. Maybe we choose Chris Paul instead. However that goes, you have your extra point guard. Austin Reeves, hopefully we can keep him. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, since we've already committed to doing so, no matter how high they go. So he should be able to play some point guard. So it's like, okay, how about I let Austin Reeves have more point guard duties? A little more point guard duties, and maybe not invest so much in my point guard position. Chris Paul is going to want more than a vet minimum. He's probably going to want about $5 mid-level, something like that, $5 million. And so if I don't expect anything from Chris Paul, that's my problem. That's my problem. I look at him practically as a coach coming on the floor trying to play. Like I don't think he can really give me a whole lot. That's the issue. And so I don't want people to think that it's anything less than that. I just don't look at him as somebody who's basically even playing much. Now, if he wants to continue his career and he proves me wrong, salute. But I just think it's two sides of the ball, and I know for a fact he can't do anything for me defensively. Nothing at all. And so that's going to be the issue for me. I just don't see why we're going that route. I see that as an open roster spot for somebody young who can raise in value, as I always say, raise in value. But nevertheless, it's a different mantra now. The logic is to bring LeBron James and Anthony Davis, win now talent. And I just think that most of the players that are actually going to be kicking our butt are the players that they think are too young to play. We're going to get beat by guys who are in the range that you're trying to avoid when bringing these dudes to you. These are the contracts that nobody wants, is what I'm trying to help the Lakers understand. You don't want Buddy Hield's contract. You don't want that. It's a little too inflated for what he's going to do. Miles Turner, again, they gave him the contract that they expected you would give him, not the contract that you actually want him to have. These are things that I inherently understand as I've watched these things transpire with these teams. I look at Chris Paul again. Best case scenario right now is they finally waive him. They stop trying to shop him around and just stretch his contract in Washington as to what you sign him to be. Veteran minimum dirt cheap contract, and then you put like 3 point guards ahead of him and you give him the respect of getting real minutes and wait for him to get hurt. That's how that literally goes. I don't expect him to be there in the end. And if that's what I'm doing, then why am I bringing him in? I need that help. Now, granted, he can help flow our offense. Cool. 4 on 5. They're hunting him. 4 on 5. Lay up. It's like, are we building for defense or what? Okay, D'Angelo Russell. He's going to be the other player on the floor. When that individual, Chris Paul, is not on the floor, you're bringing in D'Angelo Russell to play defense. Be a little better defensively than him, but it's still going to be the issue the same. I just don't understand what we want to do with our guard position if it's not going to have any defensive players to it. Me personally, looking at this problem, what I want to do is trade up and secure myself Cason Wallace. That's what I want to do. To be completely honest with you, so I can rid myself of this defensive guard problem once and forevermore. You get the player that you know you can draft for the future that can play some defense, because that way, all this other stuff we're doing can have solidified defensive, a solidified defensive dog in that backcourt. Because if you don't have that, you ain't going nowhere. I'll tell you that right now. The Lakers aren't doing nothing until they find themselves that dog. D'Angelo, definitely not that. Chris Paul, not this stage in his career. And not this stage in his career. You know, Dennis Schroeder, we know Dennis. We know him. He's going to play hard on defense, but it's only so far he's going to go for us. So that's why I'm thinking if I like Nick Smith. I don't know that he's a defensive player, though. I don't know if he can stay healthy. So that's my thing with Nick. Knee injury, that kind of scares me. So for me, it's like maybe Jalen Hood-Schifino, if he's on the board, big guy, plays a little more defense, maybe not a defensive player, but bigger person. Trust that he can go out there and give you some dog energy. Kind of makes me feel a little better when I consider drafting that kind of piece. Looking at what type of situations we're putting together with this point guard thing. I don't like how this is going. And so that's why I want the Lakers to get multiple picks. Rather than trading out of the draft to get some dudes with names that maybe can help us for a year but ultimately won't be able to get traded for nothing. Nah, I don't want that. I want something that is actually going to increase in value. And so that's what we're saying. I think the Lakers are faking with the Miles Turner Buddy Hield. Maybe they actually pull the trigger. And this could be one of those things where it's like, man, we've been trying to get him for a year. We finally got him type of deal. Maybe that's what this is. But honestly, I think we're just trying to overall increase the value of that pick. And if we tell everybody that we're interested in moving it around, create a bidding war for it. The Pistons are talking about the same as well for Bogdan Bogdanovic. He had a fantastic shooting year last year. But I like I told people last year about that, they gave him all the shots to shoot. You know what I mean? They were trying to increase his value. So, of course, he looked great. They ran the whole offense around him. And he would fit right in on our team, but he's old. Like, dude is like 34, 35 years old. Like, I'm not trying to pay him that amount, like $16, $17 million or whatever the extension was. They gave him the contract they thought the Lakers would give him. So it's like, if we want to revisit these players just to kind of make people feel like we did the right thing this time that we should have did last time, trust me, those players aren't valued the same price as they were last year. And it's different. So you just got to look at it that way. But I could argue those players feel a need. All the players that they're looking at trying to get, players that can execute properly from behind the arc, barking up the right tree. So I'm not gonna poo-poo that, but you don't give away draft picks for 35-year-olds. That's crazy. You don't even entertain that if you know what you're doing. So that's really all I got to say about that. And what else? That's it, man. I'm on the opposite side of a lot of things just because of how I view players and player types. Is shot making is something that's very important if you don't have it, for which we don't. So I gotta value it. But as far as me spending $33 million, $20 million on shot making, you got to be able to play some defense. You got to be able to do other things. Because the way I see it is, my defensive players are going to do a lot, and they're going to probably hit enough three-point shots to make up for that. Your shooter ain't going to play no defense. And that's what I come to understand if I watch enough basketball over the years. So that's really why I look at those kind of players. If they can't bring other things to the table, if they don't have specialty to them, other than the fact that they just have been able to hit shots for about 10 years, I don't want to pay the salary. I just don't want to pay the salary if I'm trying to make it make sense for my cap. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm down on Buddy Hield, up on Miles Turner, but not on his price. High on drafting 17, high on trading up to get to 11 or 10 so I can take somebody there that's a higher level guard than what is likely going to be found at 17, or I'm comfortable trading back and then getting 2 or 3 players in this draft, if possible. Anything else seems kind of crazy to me. Royce O'Neal is a nice player to add to this situation. It's a win now piece. Dorian Finney-Smith, big fan of his, so I'd be happy if the Lakers could land both of them, or one of them, But those are the type of players that I always would go for before I take a shot maker. That's just my preference in basketball. You give me 12 dudes like that, and all I need is one real shooter, and I'm happy. because I know these dudes are going to hit threes enough of the time to make it make sense. So that's why I kind of like what Brooklyn did last year, but it wasn't sustainable because they didn't have anything else to make it make sense there. But they were barking up the right tree, bringing themselves a bunch of 3-and-D dudes. And I think we should definitely add one or two more to our situation to make ourselves difficult to guard and easy to throw people at big teams. Easier to match up with those big teams, rather. So, yeah, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, the whole Brooklyn side of things, that doesn't hurt if you could bring in one or two of those guys, add it to Vando and Rui, Naz Reid, just bring as many of them dudes that can hit threes and play defense as possible. And with that being said, again, I would just wish we had more picks because there's guys like that in this draft that you would love to have from day one on a rookie contract. But, you can only pick one of those guys, and it looks like the Lakers are kind of cool on this draft because they want to make up for trades that they shouldn't have even considered last year and definitely shouldn't be considering this year, more or less. Based on the value of those players and what they're going to mean for us if we don't keep them healthy, man. Buddy Hield, I'm not really worried about staying healthy. I'm just worried about him overall just not giving me what it is I would want, basically. He's going to shoot some threes, cool, but he's going to jack up some shots as well, and it's going to be some nights where I'm just not pleased with his play, and then it's going to get to a point where enough of those nights going to come together to where it's like, all right, I'm cool on Buddy Hield. And I just already know that has been the case in other places with him, and so, again, not too high on the piece. Not just in general, I can find other players that can do what he does, and I'll be happier there. So that's what it comes down to for me. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he comes here and plays great. Maybe he's great enough to put himself in the Raptors. Who knows? I'm definitely going to root for him if we bring him here. It ain't like I'm going to root against the guy. But I just don't have a whole lot of expectations for some of the players that we're trying to aim for. I just don't. Chris Paul, I don't. Nah. Now, if y'all follow BDF44, you already know how I feel about things. I'm looking for the youth and the athleticism and the size every time. That's how I get down. And so, as far as kind of how we're going about it, I hope we're deep faking. One thing I love about being a Laker fan is all the stuff that we often talk about. About doing all the stuff that usually I hate. They don't end up doing. They end up doing something I love. It's like, okay, we threaten to do a bunch of crap. And then you do the Vando trade and the D'Lo trade. And I'm like, yo, I'm happy with all this. The stuff he actually did, the Rui stuff, yeah, that's good. But the stuff that's being rumored, I usually hate. So that's what I like about being a Laker fan. We don't usually find this team doing things that I absolutely hate. Not most of the time. The Zubac trade, yeah, we've had our moments. But Rob has been pretty good as of late for sure, actually. So I expect another good trade, man. I expect another good trade. Nothing cosmetic, making up for old trades. Nah, just something solid that will keep a sweet medium between the timeline that we're in, the fit that we need, and the inevitability of what comes next, which is a rebuild or a retooling without our core. So, again, if you have enough without them that can play together, then they're going to be able to slip in and play with any team that can play with it itself. That's what basically I'm trying to say. If a team is strong enough to keep its system intact without LeBron James and Anthony Davis and LeBron James are great enough to find their way within that team's system. And that's how I want to build. That way we're not eccentric on them playing at their best to beat teams. So if we're building with that in mind, we'll be home free. But if we don't, we're just waiting for them to be injured for this team to be a jambalaya or something that just doesn't work. Bunch of stuff that's just trying to make it but doesn't really make it because it's playing off of itself in a ways that just needs a power forward, needs LeBron. Don't be like that. You don't need to even build that way. I think that's how 2020 actually was. When I look back on that 2020 team, we won the championship. But if you remove Bron and AD from that team, they had a hard time really finding their way. They really did, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how that was. It drove me crazy, but ultimately won the end. So, if it's built correctly for what it is, then obviously it's going to fit like a charm. But You just have to assume your core is not necessarily going to be there. And so, yeah, that's my assumption. I just don't expect much from Bron and AD this upcoming season. But, you know, we're still going to go with what we know. We're going to build properly around those guys as we promised. And I don't think we'll regret it if we do. I think they'll get us through the playoffs and make us feel good about our season if we do that. But after that is what this Laker fan is concerned about. That rebuild, that retirement ceremony, that AD now wants out because Bron is gone moment. What do we have left over? What are we able to show for ourselves at that point? And don't tell me championship ring. Don't tell me no banner, because that has nothing to do with what we're going to be dealing with it at that time. Whether we get it or not, we got to deal with what we have. And at that point, some of the players from this draft will have gone on to become all-stars, high-level starters, role players that can help teams. You're going to wish you had one. You ain't going to care nothing about how we get to point A to point B. You're just going to know when you get to that point, you're going to want young talent. So that's what I have to say. Hope the Lakers have that in mind. BDL 44. I'll thank you all for watching. I'm out.